Welcome to the Learning has Changed list, the web series where I get to tackle all the things that I would like to learn how to change in education, with a community of reflective practice vloggers in order to create an engine for authentic learning. Today, I get to respond to Kevin Honeycutt, who was able to take a few moments from his drive and think through what blended learning meant to him. And this is what he said.
So blended learning, my first question is, what does that mean? Blended learning. And my guess is that it means that we're going to utilize multiple approaches to learning. But the first thing it makes me think is that it's almost an apology term, that we've got these new ways of learning, but rather than touch the third rail and mess with anything sacred in terms of what we think real learning is based on legacy code from the past, we're going to go ahead and say blended so that no one's afraid. That no, we're going to use everything that you've always used, traditional methodologies, but we're going to add a few new steps. These digital tools here will also be some things we'll blend in with that. So, and it worries me because I want to go back and I want to have a conversation about how we came up with this
Kevin
term.
For a while now, and I've known him to be passionate about the words that he chooses to use with learners. And that's why he's getting caught up on blended learning. It's a term that means so many different things to so many different people and districts and educators. And it can be a force for good, for innovation, and making really good choices with the face-to-face time that we have with learners, and then also using technology to aid that learning. But it can also be a catch-all term. It can be this compromising term that he was talking about, this apologetic term, where we're saying we are going to move the scale just slightly, and we're going to call it blended learning. And I think one thing that Kevin is talking about in here is the fear of that change, the fear that comes from what blended learning could mean. And so we make it as small as we possibly can, so that we say that change can look like this too. Change can look like lecture recorded and then displayed. Change can look like lecture coming in the form of something that we watch in the evening rather than during the school day. We call that blended learning because that doesn't actually shift a model. That just shifts the time in which that model is consumed. But if we call that blended learning, if we have shrunk the change down so small that we can't actually see movement or feel the momentum of a shift, then we don't get to have the fullness of the conversation. We don't get to talk about how special those face-to-face interactions are. We don't get to talk about ways in which we can collaborate and blend the technological aspects of it and the amazing community-building aspects of what blended learning can be. So how do we change the conversation from only being about making blended learning palatable into making blended learning powerful? I don't think it happens all at once. I think it happens in small increments, in stories, in reclaiming those words by talking about the power of what blended learning can do and what blended learning can be, rather than minimizing where it can exist and where the technology goes into the room and what a cycle looks like and where we have our flex time and things like that. When we break it down to that particular model and say that is what blended learning is, then we are saying that we have given up on this larger goal of shifting the conversation. We have given up on telling the story from the practitioner. We have given up on making the story and owning the story ourselves. So in an effort to incrementally reclaim blended learning, I'd like to tell a story of my own blending. Just like many other amazing learning experiences, it started with a challenge. I was told that I could use the open source learning management system that I desperately wanted for my learning environment, but only if I could make it play nice with the Oracle database that was the standard at the time. So I started looking for a curriculum, for someone else who had done something similar. And I found it halfway around the world. I found a set of instructions that could work, that might work. It had a different environment for the server, but I probably could figure it out. But I knew I would need more. I knew I would need that face-to-face mentorship. I knew I would need the help from a learning network that was going to allow me to make this project a reality. So I had my curriculum and my technological environment that was going to allow me to explore this. But then I built the learning environment. I built the face-to-face interaction with the people from the IT department that helped me understand how to use the Unix codes in order to get it to work. I looked outward to find experts who could help me to understand what it was that I was trying to do, even though I was not well versed. And what it came down to was a single week where I was going through step by step that curriculum at my own pace, and I was blending that with the face-to-face interactions daily with the people that would allow me to understand what I was doing, and the people that allowed me to chronicle this process and continued to support me as I learned how I could push the boundaries of what was possible in this environment. So that's my story of blending. I had a challenge, a goal in mind. I had the technology and the curriculum that allowed me to get there. But I also had this network of people that supported me and allowed me to check in daily and assess where I was. And I found the solution. I was able to get there. That is the kind of blending that I would like to see, where we're solving authentic problems, where we are using the technology and the curriculum and finding the right individual pieces that allow us to get to where we want to go. And I want to find that face-to-face mentorship model that allows for this all to work together. If you'd like to help reclaim blended learning and tell your own story of this, please do so in the comments or within the Google Plus community. Thank you so much for watching.